Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming to the 2022 2nd District Community Relations Committee Award Ceremony. For those of you that don't know me, I hope all my people know me, but for our other guests, I'm Commander Tom Stockwell, Commander here of the 2nd District. Again, thanks for coming out. I want to acknowledge some of our guests and dignitaries who came out to honor each and every one of you tonight. First and foremost, the Honorable Mayor Justin M. Bibb, Ward 3 Councilman Kerry McCormack, Ward 13 Councilperson Chris Harsh, Ward 15 Councilwoman Jenny Spencer. Of course, we've got our Chief Wayne Drummond, Deputy Chief Sammy Morris, and Deputy Chief Harry Pratel. Councilwoman from Ward 12, Rebecca Maurer, couldn't be here, and she sent her regrets, as did the Director of Community Relations, Angela Shute-Woodson. She couldn't be here, and again, she sends her regrets. I'd now like to invite up Cleveland Police Chaplain and the pastor of Mary, Queen of Peace Church, Father Doug Brown, for our invocation.
Nice. I haven't done anything yet, but thank you for that.
You do a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's unusual for me to be before the mayor, but I have to apologize that I have a mass this evening. So I told the commander, I said, listen, you're going to get by on one prayer tonight. I'll say a prayer at the beginning, not a prayer at the end. Maybe the commander will say a prayer. I don't know. Maybe he'll lead us in prayer. He's a very spiritual person, so I imagine he might do that. But let's bow our heads in prayer. Almighty God, we give thanks to you for the blessings you give us and give thanks for this great example of courage and bravery and leadership that we see among the officers of the Cleveland Division of Police. Makes us proud, Lord, to be able to call them our officers, and we certainly do feel that here in the 2nd District. We also pray for their families, those who sacrifice special times with them so they can continue to protect us and keep us safe. Bless these officers and continue to protect them and give them strength and courage and perseverance. We ask all this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you, Father Brown. Now to get the ceremony started, I'd like to invite up for a quick word, again, the Honorable Mayor Justin M. Bibb.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you so much, Commander Stockwell, for your leadership. I want to also just thank all of our commanders and members of our command staff that are here this evening. And it's so great to celebrate our year of celebrating all the great work you all do right here in the 2nd District. You know, earlier today, many of us had the pleasure to recognize our first ever state football championship, Glenville Tar Blooders, first in history. And those young men and those coaches truly represent the best of the city in excellence every single day. And that same spirit applies to each and every one of you in this room this evening. You represent excellence. You put your life on the line for our city, and you are the true embodiment of public servant leadership. And so on behalf of the residents of our city, thank you for your service, thank you for your commitment, and as we go and prepare for the holiday season, just know we're grateful for everything you do to keep our city safe and secure. God bless you all and have a good holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're gonna get into our council awards. We're fortunate here in the 2nd District. We're represented by some of the finest, I would say the finest council people anywhere in the city. Extremely supportive of myself and our officers in the 2nd District. They always step forward with resources, with any assistance that we need, and we can't thank them enough. So again, I mentioned Ward 12 Councilwoman Rebecca Maurer couldn't be here. She was gracious enough to send a letter. It's included in your program, as did Councilman Harsh. Presenting some awards to some of our officers are Councilman McCormack and Councilwoman Spencer. So first up, I'd like to introduce Ward 3 Councilman Kerry McCormack.
Thank you, Commander. And before I introduce the Ward 3 nominee this evening, I just want to thank a couple people. First of all, Chief, I think this is your first 2nd District award ceremony as Chief, so welcome. Again, my name is Kerry McCormack. I represent downtown Ohio City, Tremont, and a part of the Clark Fulton neighborhood on Cleveland City Council. And I also want to give a shout out to Commander Stocco. Commander Stocco doesn't get officially recognized at these events, but he's been an incredible partner to our neighborhoods and our communities. Again, I represent about over 35,000 Clevelanders. And I mean, he is on the spot in our neighborhoods, responsive. And you can tell in public service or anything you do when someone genuinely cares about their work, and he's there, and we appreciate him. So can we hear it for Commander Stocco, please? The other gentleman who, I don't know, is Tucker still here? Where is he? Oh, there he is, right there. Who has to deal with me all the time and signed up to deal with me even more, which surprised with that. But I want to congratulate our new commander of the 3rd District, Commander Tucker. Congratulations. Downtown is a whole different set of issues, my man, so buckle up. But really, I wanted to, I believe Councilwoman Mauer also recognized Lieutenant Beckner?
Yes.
Okay, so on behalf of the two of us, want to really acknowledge Lieutenant Beckner as the Ward 3 and Ward 12, apparently, person to recognize this evening. Lieutenant Beckner is the embodiment of community policing. If you go to any of our block clubs, if you go to any of our street fairs, if you go to the streets in our neighborhoods and ask about Lieutenant Beckner, you're going to hear about him and how important he is, whether it is closing down a street for a community party, whether it's responding to nuisance houses, whether it is engaging with residents in our block clubs and our communities. He is the face of that work. In addition to being, a great Cleveland police officer, he goes above and beyond. If ran against me, he'd beat me by 30 points in our community. But really does an incredible job to go above and beyond the call of duty and bridge and really connect with our community. He is one of a kind, responsive, all over the place, hands-on, loves his work, loves what he does, and the biggest thing and most impressive is has to deal with us on a daily basis. But truly, when folks call our office, when they reach out to us, when they pull us aside at a block club and tell us about the issue going on in their life, and as all of you here today are well aware, that could be domestic violence, that could be a house that's disrupting the entire street, that could be an issue with, bad behavior coming out of another house down the street. It's personal. It's people's homes, it's their families, it's their lives, it's their safety and well-being. So that responsiveness, that care, that attention to detail has touched so many people in the 2nd District, and they know because of his work that the city cares and that we care about their well-being. So again, on behalf of myself and Ward 12, we want to recognize Lieutenant Beckner. So do we have the, here it is. So come on up. I'll get the picture right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Norm, I see you in your white vest.
Yeah, right?
Thank you, Councilman McCormick. Now I'd like to introduce Ward 15 Councilwoman, the Councilwoman of this area where we're at right now, Jenny Spencer.
Commander and Chief and Mayor Bibb, thanks so much for having us tonight, and thank you for being in Ward 15 this evening. I'm totally delighted to be together tonight in this location. A lot of you might remember my predecessor on Cleveland City Council, Matt Zone. He served for 19 years. A lot of you knew him and still know him, but this is actually his parish, so it's really cool to be at Our Lady of Mount Carmel tonight this evening to celebrate you all and to be part of it. When Commander first reached out about recognizing you all in the 2nd District, my first thought was there's so much to be thankful for, and how do you possibly pick out names, because you are all public servants. You are all serving Cleveland and Clevelanders day in and day out. And the truth of it is most of us don't don't see what, you're doing things all the time that we don't have an opportunity to see. Truly, acts of courage, acts of generosity, and just service to the public. So to me, what's sticking with me in this moment is not just the people we get to thank and name this evening, but all of you who, even though if we don't see the individual acts, just know that you are appreciated and recognized, and we are so grateful for all of you. So speaking of people, though, who sometimes maybe their acts don't go appreciated, I want to thank Michael McDonald. I want to recognize Michael McDonald from 2nd District Community Relations, who does such a good job also knitting together the council office with the police and keeping us apprised of our mutual missions to serve the community. So thank you, Michael. But really, again, this is such a hard task of coming up with individual names of people to recognize. That said, I did share with Commander some names, and I want to share them with you all. I will start with Officer Thompson and Detective Nan. I hope you're both here. I see Officer Thompson there. But really, I have known these two gentlemen for many years. Prior to my joining City Council, I worked at the Development Corporation in the area, and there's a part of the 2nd District a lot of you might be familiar with, which is the area around Elton Avenue, Colgate, Dudley. That area has been a conundrum for going on decades now, and these two individuals had the sense of purpose, the attention to detail, the drive, the ability to build relationships, and to really break down some of the systemic patterns of crime in that area. And I can tell you that while there's still work to do, we are light years ahead of where we were. So I see New Beginning Ministry here, and you're right there, and that we still have work to do on Colgate, but we're getting there together. And a lot of that has to do with Officer Thompson and Detective Nan. That's just one example. Another example is 80th in Detroit has been a big challenge in the 2nd District for decades. A lot of important policing going on there. And again, a lot of you might have been involved in it, and just because I'm not saying your name doesn't mean that the appreciation isn't there. So I hope you all feel that, the impact you're all having. So I guess with that, I'll get to do my first handshake with Officer Thompson to let you know how awesome you are. All right. He's out sick. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, and then I'll share just a couple more stories. I only had the opportunity twice now to meet Officer Beckwith, and so just beginning my relationship meeting Officer Beckwith, but I'll tell you that he went on a journey with me and my council office team this summer. We hosted an event at Miriam Ortiz Rush Park. It used to be called, I think, Guthrie Lawn Park, or Lawn Park on Madison Avenue, and that is a park that was recently redone, but still needs a lot of work in terms of making sure that illicit activity does not take place in the park. So we hosted a family-friendly event there, but I knew that having your presence, the 2nd District's presence there, was going to be so important for people to feel safe bringing their families there. Officer Beckwith, you stuck with that entire event. It was a long night. It was a movie night event. I'm like, when is this? I got to go home. I got to go to sleep. That movie kept going. I'm not. It was late into the night, and there were times when we saw children who were unattended and families. And I'll tell you, the fact that you hung out, the way Officer Beckwith interacted with the community members, the families, the parents, the kids, and just had that presence, making everyone know that they were safe in that space. Really meant the world to me. So that park needs a lot of work still in terms of people feeling safe going to it. Your role is so critical, and Officer Beckwith, your actions that day meant a lot to me. And I'll just share one more brief story. There was a march a couple weeks ago with the LGBT Center mourning the mass shooting in Colorado Springs, and I saw Officer Beckwith there helping with traffic. So again, just all the things we see, but things we don't see that you all do day in and day out. So thank you so much, Officer Beckwith. Okay, and I have one more. Officer Rodriguez, who I've never met. This is the first time tonight. This is so much fun. We have a very challenging home. All parts of the 2nd District have them, where we have a hoarder situation, a senior citizen who needs help and will not really accept help. And Officer Rodriguez and I have been in close communication about this individual, and just really appreciated the approach taken to working with this senior, showing them respect while at the same time letting them know that there are community expectations that need to be met. We're not over the finish line yet in terms of getting that individual the help they need, but Officer Rodriguez treated them with so much respect and dignity while also recognizing that we have to work towards a resolution. And you were just exceptional with your communication to the council office, keeping us updated on your outreach and activity in regards to that matter. So sometimes those really small details matter. If any of you, in your neighborhoods know what it's like to live next to a vacant and abandoned house or a house like that. I mean, this house has vermin, a lot of issues going on. Living next to that one house can really change how you feel about your entire neighborhood. So to be able to work with you all on those types of matters really makes a difference in the lives of Clevelanders. So thank you so much, Officer Rodriguez. Good to meet you. Okay. That's it, Commissioner Stocco. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spencer. I'd like to welcome and acknowledge our Director of Public Safety, Carrie Howard. Thank you, sir. So we're going to get into our ceremony. Our Master of Ceremony this evening is likely a familiar face to most of you, especially if you're my age or close to my age. As a TV news reporter and anchorman, Michael O'Mara became one of Cleveland's premier journalists. Over his nearly 40-year career in Cleveland television, Mike won 6 Emmy Awards while working at Channels 3, 8, 19, and 43. He earned a law degree from the Marshall College of Law at Cleveland State University and became a member of the Ohio Bar Association in 1985. He's worked as a trial attorney and municipal prosecutor in addition to being a broadcaster in multiple metropolitan markets. He finished out his distinguished career in news working at WKYC Channel 3, after which he was inducted into the Ohio Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, our Master of Ceremonies and a very, very good friend of mine, Mike O'Mara. I'd like to invite our dignitaries to come up to the front, form a receiving line. For those honorees that are being recognized, follow the leader, Lieutenant Beckner's lead, and come from my left to the right, and you'll come across the receiving line.
Hello, everybody. It seems weird to hear him say almost 40 years, but it's true. I started at Channel 8 as a child in 1982, and then continued on with news. Then I practiced law for several years, got sick and tired of doing that, came back to the adrenaline of news, and Cleveland went to 1943, and then when they went to tabloid, I went, no, and went over to Channel 3 and finished off my career at Channel 3. And in all those years, I was able to witness some amazing acts and some very small acts of courage and bravery by the men and women of the Cleveland Police Department. Now, some of those made the news. Most never did. But I knew about them. And my being here tonight is a small way for me to say thank you, to honor you, to tell you how much I appreciate your service for the 2nd District, and to all the men and women of the Cleveland Police Department. I appreciate, and in my entire career, try to show that I appreciate what you all do. So, let me just tell you about the 3 awards we're going to give out tonight. We have a special commendation. It's awarded to division personnel who distinguish themselves by improving an administrative or tactical procedure within the Division of Police, fostering a successful community affairs program, or performing a valuable police service which demonstrates special diligence or perseverance. We have the Commander's Commendation, special awards given to law enforcement personnel in recognition of their acts or acts that represent the officer's diligence to duty and furthering law enforcement ideals. We also have a Citizens Award plaque awarded to civilians who distinguish themselves through the performance of a heroic act involving significant personal risk. So, let me call our first two recipients. Detective Daniel Nagy, Detective Zachary New. You want to come up to the left, please? In December 2020, Cleveland's West Side and its surrounding suburbs experienced a sequence of violent crimes, all of which appear to be related. As the Cleveland Division of Police officers work to identify the suspects in these cases, another in the series of increasingly violent crimes occurred in the city's Clark Fulton neighborhood only days before Christmas. Detectives Daniel Nagy, Zachary New were each working as patrol officers at the time, developed information identifying the suspects in the most recent crime. This information was established by the officers utilizing numerous law enforcement databases and social media accounts, in addition to working with foreign investigating agencies. The information the officers gathered identified the notorious and violent siblings who were responsible for these crimes, together with known associates, their home addresses, and areas frequented by the pair on the near West Side. So armed with this information they developed, Detectives Nagy and New arrested the dangerous felons for aggravated robbery and felonious assault. At the time of the arrest, the officers recovered 3 firearms, a large amount of cash, and other items which proved to be evidence of the arrested male's crimes. Second District detectives were able to use the evidence compiled by Detectives Nagy and New to tie the arrested felons to a myriad of violent crimes that had plagued the region. The actions of Detectives Nagy and New went above and beyond the normal call of duty, and their persistence and determination proved to be the key in ending a violent crime spree. Gentlemen? All right, I'd like to call up Patrol Officer Caitlin Duplaga, Patrol Officer Ryan Krantz, Patrol Officer Jose Garcia, Patrol Officer Frank Garmbach IV, Patrol Officer Christopher Cooper, and Detective Matthew Randolph. All of them are getting Commander's Commendations tonight. So let me tell you about this one. On Tuesday, August 10th, 2021, officers Caitlin Duplaga and Ryan Krantz responded to a call for an intoxicated male who was passed out in a running vehicle at a local restaurant. As the officers approached the vehicle, the suspect regained consciousness and unlocked the vehicle's door. Officer Krantz opened the driver's side door in an attempt to secure the obviously intoxicated male. When the suspect defied the officer's commands, put the car in reverse and backed away at a high rate of speed, violently throwing Officer Krantz to the ground. The suspect then accelerated forward, intentionally striking Officer Duplaga, who was running to her partner's assistance. The force of the impact sent Officer Duplaga flying to the pavement several feet away, breaking her back in the process. The suspect vehicle fled the area as the officers requested assistance. Detective Matthew Randolph responded to the scene, viewed surveillance video of the incident. He quickly identified the suspect as a male with multiple felony warrants and a history of violently fleeing officers, ramming police vehicles, and striking officers on foot. Due to the seriousness of the incident, multiple agencies joined the search for this violent suspect. Short time later, the suspect's vehicle was located and a pursuit ensued that ended with the suspect vehicle crashing. Officers Frank Garnbach IV, Jose Garcia, and Christopher Cooper approached the vehicle, yelling commands that the suspect ignored as he attempted to drive away. Fearing the suspect would escape, the officers were forced to break out the vehicle window and take the suspect into custody at great risk to themselves. And from that vehicle, the officers seized 2 loaded firearms, as well as heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. The collective actions and dedication of patrol officers Caitlin Duplaga, Ryan Krantz, Jose Garcia, Christopher Cooper, Frank Garnbach IV, and Detective Matthew Randolph brought a dangerous, repeat violent offender to justice. For their commitment to the community and to the profession, each of these officers is being recognized with a Commander's Commendation. Next, I'd like to call out Detectives Dimphna O'Neill, Jerome Krakowski, Sean Schuler, Trevor Majid, Mark Jelinek. Each of the detectives are going to get a special commendation award. And also, I would like to call out Cuyahoga County Assistant Prosecutor Chris Woodworth, who's going to be getting the Citizen Award plaque. So here is the backstory. On Friday, December 3rd, 2021, 2nd District officers were alerted to a violent, aggravated burglary which occurred in the city's Stockyards neighborhood. 3 masked males dressed in all black forced their way into a residence, brandishing firearms, knocking the elderly homeowner to the floor, and holding the family at gunpoint while they stole money and personal items. Following the initial response, the case was assigned to Detective Dimphna O'Neill, who worked with Detective Jerry Krakowski to interview the witnesses and canvass the area for physical evidence and video. The detectives located several videos of the suspects, including a video showing a 4th male that appeared to be chasing the suspects. Through further investigation, the detectives were able to identify that male chasing the suspects as Assistant Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Chris Woodworth. Yes, Prosecutor Woodworth chased the suspects from the crime scene at great personal risk, was able to provide a description of the suspects and even a photo of the license plate of their escape vehicle to the detectives. Offering his assistance, Detective Trevor Majid located additional video evidence of the suspect vehicle, utilizing city cameras and assets located in the division's real-time crime center. Detective O'Neill then shared the collective evidence discovered in her investigation with her colleagues, who made it a priority to assist in locating the suspects and the suspect's vehicle. Then Detective Mark Jelinek worked as part of the 2nd District Violent Crime Response Team, developed further information, and located the suspect vehicle hidden in the rear yard of one of the suspect's homes. With this additional information, Detective O'Neill, who is now working with her partner, Detective Sean Schuler, secured a search warrant for the suspect's home and auto. During the execution of the search warrant, that suspect was arrested as he attempted to flee through a window, and critical evidence implicating the suspects, including 2 handguns, and the suspect vehicle were seized. Due to the collective efforts of these detectives, the suspects were identified, arrested, and charged, stolen property recovered, and contraband, including 2 firearms and narcotics, were seized. Amazing teamwork. All right, let me call up the next group. We have Sergeant Orlando Rivera. Woo! Sergeant Andrew Thomas, Detective Lawrence Smith, Detective William Salupo Jr., Detective Vasily Nan, who is sick tonight, Detective Scott Sistek, Detective Daniel Nagy, Detective Matthew Randolph, and Detective Prabkarandip Singh. Each of these officers will be getting a commander's commendation. Back in December 2021, Detective Larry Smith developed intelligence regarding a large-scale drug smuggling operation which was trafficking narcotics from the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas to Cleveland. During the course of the investigation, it was learned that this sophisticated operation was being controlled by a Cleveland resident with multiple identities, all registered with the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Over the course of a complicated 2.5-month investigation, members of the 2nd District Vice Unit, under the direction of Sergeant Orlando Rivera, learned the true identity of the drug trafficking organization's mastermind through a series of wiretaps and electronic surveillance. Further undercover surveillance and confidentially shared information led to the discovery of a network of trap houses throughout the greater Cleveland area where the narcotics were delivered, stored, cut, packaged, and trafficked. Armed with the information developed during the investigation, detectives secured a number of search warrants seeking evidence to put an end to this criminal enterprise. Over the course of 2 days, tactical teams executed search warrants in 3 cities, resulting in the arrest of the drug kingpin and the seizure of more than 64 pounds of narcotics, including methamphetamine, cocaine, and heroin. The street value, by the way, more than $2.2 million. Due to the scope and scale of this criminal operation, the target of the investigation faced federal drug trafficking charges, which resulted in more than a decade in federal prison. But more importantly, our narcotics pipeline that brought death and despair to Cleveland's neighborhoods was completely dismantled. Well done. I would like to ask Sergeant Patrick Becca, Detective Mark Jelinek, Detective Zachary New to come on down. These officers are going to be receiving the Commander's Commendation. As they're coming down, let me tell you their story. Friday, April 8th, 2022, a 16-year-old juvenile was shot in front of his home on the city's near west side. As the victim was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, members of the 2nd District Violent Crime Response Team, including Sergeant Patrick Becca, Detectives Mark Jelinek, and Zachary New, responded to the scene where they gathered evidence, including shell casings from the 11 shots that were fired at that victim. After conducting interviews and viewing surveillance video, the detectives identified the suspect and the vehicle that was used during the attack. Wasting no time, the detectives immediately began touring areas the suspect was known to frequent. Sergeant Becca soon observed the suspect vehicle parked in a lot, and after surveilling the area, the suspect was spotted sitting inside a nearby restaurant. With the assistance of Detective Jelinek and Detective New, the suspect was taken into custody and a firearm was seized. A later forensic analysis of the confiscated firearm connected it to a previously unsolved homicide. These officers went above and beyond from the moment of this investigation by showing dedication to their profession and a high commitment to the safety of the community that they serve. The actions of Sergeant Patrick Becca, Detective Mark Jelinek, and Detective Zachary New led to the identification and arrest of a violent felon who was terrorizing the local neighborhoods. For their excellence, these officers being recognized with the Commander's Commendation. Sergeant Pat Becca, please come on back up. Detective Zachary New, come on back up. Sergeant Robert Norman and Detective Arthur Luther. All these officers will be receiving the Commander's Commendation. Aaron Luther, sorry, Chief. Here's the story. In May 2022, the 2nd District was alerted to an ongoing neighborhood dispute that had the potential to escalate to violence. Due to the volatile nature of the situation, the matter was assigned collectively to Detective Robert Norman, who has since been promoted to sergeant, together with Detectives Zachary New and Aaron Luther. This group of detectives comprised the 2nd District's Violent Crime Response Team under the command of Sergeant Patrick Becca. As the detectives worked to calm the tensions and identify the parties involved, one of the homes at the center of the quarrel was riddled with bullets by a lone gunman, resulting in the uninvolved homeowner suffering a life-threatening gunshot wound to the chest. The Violent Crime Response Team immediately responded to the scene to conduct interviews, gather evidence, including nearly a dozen shell casings that would ultimately prove to be the key to solving the case. While investigating this crime, detectives learned that a day before this felonious assault shooting occurred, an 18-year-old Parma male had threatened to shoot up the victim's home. With that information, the detectives secured an arrest warrant for the male for aggravated menacing. Because there were no eyewitnesses to the shooting, the detectives did not yet have enough evidence to tie the Parma male to the crime, though he was their prime suspect. And fearing that the suspect might return to the home to inflict more carnage, the detectives set up a surveillance in the area. The detectives soon observed the suspect approach the victim's home on foot, at which time they realized he had a concealed firearm on his person. Believing that another shooting was imminent, the detectives rushed the suspect, who produced that firearm in an act of aggression. Working as a team, the detectives were able to disarm and subdue that suspect. A subsequent search of the suspect uncovered more than 100 rounds of ammunition in numerous high-capacity magazines. And a forensic examination of the shell casings recovered at the scene of the shooting confirmed that the weapon seized from the suspect had fired the rounds that struck the victim's home and left that homeowner clinging to life. The suspect ultimately charged with a litany of crimes, including attempted murder. Gentlemen. Let me call up Sergeant Orlando Rivera. I'd like to call Detective Vasily Nan, but he's not here because he's ill. Detective William Salupo Jr., Detective Matthew Randolph. Each of these officers will be getting a commander's commendation. Back in August 7th, 2022, while assigned to the operational security for the annual Puerto Rican parade in the city's Clark Fulton neighborhood, Vice Unit members Sergeant Orlando Rivera and Detectives Vasily Nan, William Salupo Jr., and Matthew Randolph observed a frenzied crowd of festival goers fleeing in obvious fear from a nearby parking lot. Wading into the hysterical crowd in the midst of that panic, the detectives learned that an armed gunman was standing on top of a vehicle threatening everybody with a rifle. Without regard for their own safety, the detectives flooded the parking lot where they immediately engaged the armed suspect. Ignoring officer commands, the menacing suspect fled to a parked vehicle and sped away, attempting to elude capture. The detectives requested zone car assistance and coordinated the positioning of arriving units to block the exit, resulting in the arrest of that armed felon. Seized from the gunman was a fully loaded AR-15 style assault rifle and a secondary loaded handgun, which was concealed and ready at hand. Owing to the selfless and heroic actions of these detectives, a potential tragedy was averted and a dangerous criminal taken into custody with minimal force. Their actions reflected the commitment to the Second District community and certainly to their profession. Next, let me call up Detective William Salupo, Patrol Officer Mariah Rodriguez, Patrol Officer Nathaniel Rodriguez, Patrol Officer Michael Valdez, Patrol Officer Ricardo Holt Santiago. Each of these officers will be getting the Commander's Commendation. So let me tell you while they're coming up. On Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, Second District officers received information that 4 masked gunmen were spotted sitting in 2 stolen vehicles in the parking lot of Garrett Morgan High School. Detective William Salupo, together with patrol officers Mariah Rodriguez, Nathaniel Rodriguez, Ricardo Holt Santiago, and Michael Valdez, sped to the scene, learning while en route that the school had been placed on lockdown. Upon arrival, the responding officers observed the 4 suspects walking away from the stolen vehicles toward the school doors, mixing with students who were returning to the lockdown school for safety. Officers Nathaniel Rodriguez and Michael Valdez made the first contact with the suspects just inside the school entrance, ordering them out of the school. But once outside, the suspects fled in multiple directions, with officers relaying suspect information to other responding officers while simultaneously giving chase. The officers worked as a team, tracking and chasing the suspects through yards, down alleys, and across the nearby freeway. After an exhaustive search involving protracted foot pursuits, all 4 suspects were apprehended. After capturing the suspects, the officers seized 2 loaded firearms and recovered 2 stolen vehicles. As a result of their selfless response, decisive actions, communication, and commitment to safety, a potential school shooting was averted and violent criminals removed from the city streets. For these reasons, officers Nathaniel Rodriguez, Michael Valdez, Ricardo Holt Santiago, Maria Rodriguez, and Detective William Salupo are being recognized tonight with the Commander's Commendation. Our last group of officers, Patrol Officer Lawrence McGurvey, Patrol Officer Felix Lopez, Patrol Officer Katie Medwid. Each of these officers will be getting the Commander's Commendation tonight. Thursday, October 6, 2022, Patrol Officers Lawrence McGurvey, Katie Medwid, and Felix Lopez responded to a suicidal male threatening to jump from a bridge. Upon their arrival, the officers observed a male in obvious crisis standing on the outside ledge of that bridge. The officers immediately began the process of crisis intervention and de-escalation with the goal of saving the man's life. As the talks continued, the man turned away from the officers, began taking deep breaths, released his grip on the bridge, raising his arms toward the sky. The officers believed the man was either preparing to jump or could unintentionally fall while moving on that small, unsecured surface. Seeing an opportunity to rescue the male, the officers grabbed his arms and tried pulling him off the ledge. The male instinctively resisted and attempted to break free of the officer's grasp. But the officers kept that male from jumping off the bridge, and with the assistance of Cleveland Fire and EMS personnel, that man was pulled to safety. While being escorted to the EMS vehicle, the formerly suicidal male realized how close he had come to death. He then hugged the officers and thanked each of them for saving his life. Owing to the courageous actions of these officers, the male in crisis was saved from himself and reunited with his family. It is for these reasons that Officer Lawrence McGurvey, Officer Katie Medwid, and Officer Felix Lopez are being awarded the Commander's Commendation tonight. Okay, now I'm going to call for retired Cleveland Police Officer Bob Gutu to present the Cleveland Police Foundation Awards. Bob?
Gotta put the cheaters on so I can read. Every year, the Cleveland Police Foundation attends each and every district award ceremony. And we give 3 awards. Number 1 is to a police officer, number 2 is to an individual, and then number 3 is to a business or an organization. That goes beyond the call of duty. After you hear these write-ups, I'm sure you're going to agree that these 3 picks were very well deserved. We're going to start with our police officer first. Captain Tim Moffo. Judd, would you please come up? Captain Timothy Moffo Judd is a motivated, forward-thinking leader that sets an incredible example for officers in the Cleveland Division of Police. In 2022, Captain Moffo Judd organized a committee that renovated underutilized areas of the outdated district jail in Sallyport. He partnered with 2nd District officers, community groups, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, and the Cleveland Police Foundation to make this project a reality. Owing to Captain Moffo Judd's vision and leadership, I'm sorry, Tim. And this is from, I owe him this, because every time I show up with Tim anywhere, first thing he tells the people when he's around, he says, Bob, wasn't it tough when you were a police officer responding in a covered wagon? I'm thinking, oh, you dog. I owed you that one, Tim. Owing to Captain Moffo Judd's vision and leadership, this space is now proudly used as a new and improved roll call room and an area where officers can take breaks and enjoy a meal. The space is also used for a variety of other events such as retirement luncheons and meetings. The bright and inviting area created through this endeavor have proven to be a symbol of pride for 2nd District officers in addition to bolstering morale. Yearly, Captain Mafo Judd organizes a sock and underwear community collection drive to assist the less fortunate. This annual drive demonstrates Captain Mafo Judd's empathetic nature. It also sets an example to the rank and file by showing them firsthand that officers can have a positive impact on the communities that we serve outside of traditional policing practices. In addition to his community outreach activities, Captain Mafo Judd organizes team building events amongst district personnel, including a second district softball game held each summer at Brookside Park. Activities such as these give officers respite from the daily grind of police work and fosters an opportunity for supervisors, patrol officers, and detectives to get to know one another outside of the work setting, enhancing camaraderie and officer wellness. In closing, Captain Mafo Judd is the first to volunteer to attend community events to strengthen the trust and goodwill between the Cleveland Division of Police and its citizenry. His willingness to serve the community, combined with the constant desire to improve the lot of his colleagues and those under his command, exemplifies servant leadership, making him a priceless asset to the Division of Police. Captain Tim Mafo Judd, it is because of your dedication to your profession and your true buy-in to the community policing concept that the Cleveland Police Foundation is honored to bestow upon you our Community Service Award. Congratulations. Is Mr. Jordan Williams here this evening? There he is. Just a great story. On Sunday, August 8, 2021, 2nd District officers responded to a motor vehicle crash which occurred on a freeway at a busy entrance ramp. An intoxicated driver entered the freeway going the wrong direction, causing a violent head-on collision with an unexpected motorist. The force of the impact sent the victim's vehicle careening off the roadway as it burst into flames, trapping the driver in a disabled, burning automobile. An uninvolved citizen, Mr. Jordan Williams, heard the loud crash and observed its severity through his rearview mirror. Knowing there was no way he could continue driving without helping those involved, he sped back to the scene and ran to the trapped female. Mr. Williams punched and kicked the door window, though it would not break. He then pulled at the door frame, which was slightly ajar from the violent impact, using his feet to increase leverage. Through brute strength and determination, he eventually forced the door open to pull the semi-conscious female to safety from the now fully engulfed vehicle. He provided care to and stayed with the victim until safety personnel arrived. The action of Mr. Williams was heroic. Without hesitation, he risked his own life to pull a complete stranger to safety from a burning vehicle. Mr. Williams, it is because of your bravery and willingness to risk your life to save another that the Cleveland Police Foundation is honored to bestow upon you our Community Service Award. Congratulations. Great job. Before I go on with our third presentation, I should have introduced, and I'm very sorry I didn't. Our president of the foundation is Dick Clough, here to assist. And our executive director, Rick DeShant, is here also. Thank you guys for showing up. New Beginning Ministries, would Pastors Gregory and Teresa McCurry please come up? New Beginning Ministries is the cornerstone of the neighborhood of West 65th and Colgate. Pastor Gregory McCurry and his wife Teresa McCurry, affectionately known as Pastor T, use strong foundations in their faith to serve the community in which they are located. The ministries include spreading the word of God as well as providing for the community. These acts of selflessness include clothing drives, picnics, and community service, just to name a few. Pastor McCurry has always been open to dialogue with officers and is liaison between the police and the community. New Beginning Ministries has always included the 2nd District officers when hosting community events. Often officers will volunteer to assist at community events leading to friendly conversation, humor, and building community trust. These events allow the officers and the community to work on a common goal of serving those less fortunate while learning to understand one another. These events and interactions provide the means to bridge existing gaps where officers can be more involved and viewed positively in the community. New Beginning Ministries are a great example of the police and the community working together and should be used as a model for community relations. Pastor Gregory and Pastor T, it is because of your dedication to both the community and our heroes in blue that the Cleveland Police Foundation is honored to bestow upon you both the Community Service Award. Thank you. On behalf of the Cleveland Police Foundation, I want to thank each and every recipient here tonight, and also those of you who came to honor these outstanding individuals. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. That was wonderful. Let's have another round of applause for all of our honorees. Couple more recognitions, and then we'll get to a meal. Some special recognition. This ceremony really means a lot to me as the commander of the 2nd District. Have an opportunity to recognize the men and women of the 2nd District as well as the community. And I think you'll see by the folks that came out, from the mayor, the safety director, the chief, our chiefs, and our council people, that everyone really appreciates what you did and what you do. Clearly, our officers don't get the recognition they deserve day in and day out. And I say this at every one of our ceremonies. For everyone out here that's being awarded something, they probably did 10 or 15 or 20 other things that they're not being recognized for. So honestly, there could be a write-up for every one of these officers tenfold. And for the rest of the 2nd District officers that aren't here, they all could have been recognized as well. So thank you all for what you do. Some other recognition. Again, I say that this is a very important ceremony to me, and we put a lot of time into it, but this would not go off without the assistance, the hard work of Lieutenant Mike Betley. Lieutenant Betley, Lieutenant Betley knows how I am and how I'm a perfectionist and I want this done right, and he handles everything from writing up the synopses to arranging the room with Michael McDonald to setting up our caterer, getting the awards and the plaques together. He really does a wonderful job. So Mike, thank you very much from me. A couple others that helped a great deal, and someone that a tremendous loss to me, a tremendous loss to the 2nd District community, Commander Rob Tucker. You know, you've heard everyone who's come up here say something nice about him, and you know, I wish I could say more. Honestly, he has done more for the 2nd District community than I could have ever hoped, and to have him for 4 years and to lose him is bittersweet. The city's going to be better off for him being in command of the 3rd District. So, Commander Tucker, thanks again. Helping put together the award ceremony also was Captain Johnny Ham, Lieutenant Steve Beckner, and Captain Tucker, at the time Captain Tucker, now Commander Tucker, all got together. We wrote these, we proofread them, we made sure that they were perfect. Again, we wanted to recognize all the officers. The last award, I want to recognize some other people that made this possible. First and foremost, Bruno's Ristorante. Bruno is catering this event. Everyone's invited, including all of our dignitaries. I hope everyone can stay. Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church is very gracious to us, gave us this wonderful venue to hold the event. Great Lakes Brewing Company, no beer, folks, no beer, but they make a good donation to our Community Relations Committee, our policing committee every year that helps us put this together. And First Interstate Properties. They own Steelyard Commons. They own a lot of properties. They put on the Mayor's Night Out Against Crime. They put up a lot of money for it, and they support this event as well, so thanks to them. Well, thank you, everyone. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for taking your time to recognize our officers and our citizens. We invite everyone to come to the back of the room and have a nice meal. Thank you for this year.
Great job.